Hello and welcome to round 4 of the Automobilista Australia Touring Car Championship. And this week, as you can see on that splash screen, we're at Oulton Park. We're around the shorter island layout. Not the shortest layout of Oulton Park, but probably in the middle between I can't remember the exact name of the short layout. I think it's the Foster's, I believe. The Foster's layout, which is the shortest one. It's sort of like a little boxy shape. And the long layout, the international layout. Currently got Wayne Whitmore out there on a lap. In the qualifying session. Don't have any live races at the moment, so I won't be able to go through all the live timing that's going out there, unfortunately. So I'm just going to have to do it the old-fashioned way this evening. And Wayne Whitmore very wide there at turn 2. Coming up to the island hairpin, where we'll probably see a little bit of biff on the entry. We'll also see some overtaking in there as well. And now coming down through the chicane. Not the greatest run through there, but he's still going. Through Druids and now coming up to Lodge. The final proper corner of the circuit, but this little kink to the left here is actually called Deer Leap. And Whitmore will set 1 minute 32.1. So not the fastest time out there. In fact, Lime Mitch has set the first sub 1 minute 30 lap of the weekend. So very good lap for Lime Mitch. And in fact, that's probably going to see him get pole position unless Dwayne Davies has anything to do about it. Because Dwayne Davies was second quickest in that last session on a 1 minute 30.3, I believe. So still got to find half a second, just over half a second. And there it is. Dwayne Davies didn't set a great lap compared to his personal best, 1 minute 30.6. But still, he will be starting towards the front, and his race pace is something to look for. And then we've got Turmo 131.1. Not too bad a lap there. The Irwin Tools Chevrolet. And then got Steve Bolger there 131.9. And then there he is, a bit more with a 32.1. So crack on an outlap. Coulson just leaving the pits and got Brownie out there on a lap coming through Lodge now. And it is really annoying me that there is no live races for me to go off his first two sectors here. But judging by that time is set coming out the final turn, it's going to be not a great lap for Brownie. 1 minute 34.4, but he's still set a time though. Let's see, got Glenn Miles out there on a lap as well. Let's see what he can do. And he pips Brownie by 0.3, 1 minute 34.0 for the Playboy Racing Ford Focus team. Brownie out there, he's still going, but you only get one time lap, and he's 0.3 up on his PB, so that would just about suck him in front of Glenn Miles, so he'll be a bit annoyed with himself. And I do believe I'm getting a message from FCR Motorsport crew, and Ricky Slick's not actually turned a lap of this track, so it's going to be very interesting to see how he goes. He didn't set a time in practice, and he's done no practice, so it will be interesting to see how he fares. We've got cracking out on his lap. So we'll follow him around for a lap. Up to Island hairpin. 3/10 down on the pole time. And a little bit of lag, unfortunately. In fact, we're right on board Cracker on a lap of the circuit. So this is Hislop's chicane. And unfortunately, continuing to get a bit of lag. And this is Knickerbrook. It's Clay Hill. That's actually counted as a corner. And then we've got Water Tower, this little kink here. And then this double right-hander, or double apex right-hander is Druids. And then this final corner, well, final proper corner right here. This is Lodge. And then Deer Leap down in that little gully there, and coming up to the start to finish line. That's not a bad lap from Cracker there. 1:31.1, one of his better qualifying efforts of the season. And I'm pretty sure, I think he'll be happy with that. Obviously 1.2 off the pole time, but I don't think anybody, only really Dwayne Davies and perhaps Turmo would challenge that 29.8. As we have seen Mitch be mighty quick in F3 and Rookie Series in the past, as well as maybe even the supercars or TCAC, where he's been very quick, but he's been very consistent. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes throughout the races this evening. But he started his weekend off just the way you want to. We've got Ricky Slick out there. This is his first lap of the circuit, so we'll stick with him. I do apologise if there are other drivers out there at the moment, but watching in real time Ricky Slick learn the circuit. In his rusty POS Corolla, and he's not got the final turn right. In fact, we're right on board with him and can take him along the way. Star Spangled Roll Cage for Ricky Slick. Down 2 gears for turn 1. You only want to go down 1, and he's had to get back on the power immediately and shift up. So, not a great start to his lap. Oh, and he's coming very hot here at Cascades, and he's cascaded off into the grass, going down the lakeside straight there. There's the lake to the left-hand side of those trees. He's 3 seconds down. He's out, broke himself at the hairpin, and crunch. Well, Ricky Slick has not had a good run here. Let's see what else is going on actually, because Ricky Slick is down. He's not going to set a competitive lap time. We've got Brenton Foley on an out lap. And unfortunately, Brendan Ross just got a disconnect just as it ticked over to qualifying. So that's why he's not out there, but he will join us for the warm-up and the races. So he's got a bit of work to do, and that's going to give Foley a bit of a free kick here. So Foley's just got to put a semi-competitive lap together here. And will already have a massive advantage over his teammate and championship rival, Brendan Rose. Six tenths down in the first sector, so not a good run. He was okay through Cascade. So obviously turn 1 there, Old Hall Corner. He must have mucked it up a little bit, and that's cost him a lot of time. We'll see how he goes in the middle sector. As you see, Ricky Slick did complete his lap time. Oh, Foley very wide there. I wonder if that'll be a track cut even. He's continued to keep his foot in it though. And Ricky Slick has been disqualified for something, so he's probably turned around and gone backwards. It's the only way I can imagine you could do it in private qualifying session. Brenton Foley now. And because that was a roundabout where the sector point was, I did miss what Brenton Foley's split was compared to Lime Mitch. He's very wide in the final corner. That would have compromised him a little bit. Anyway, comes out of the final turn, 1:30.9. So not too bad a lap there from Foley. He'll start P3. But I think this evening it's going to be between Dwayne Davies and Lime Mitch pace-wise, because I think Foley's just, with that weight that he's carrying, that extra bit of weight compared to Dwayne Davis, and I don't believe Lion Mitch is carrying any, so that'll be why he's so quick. So I think those two will probably just edge Foley a little bit, but we do know Foley very, very consistent in the races and doesn't make too many mistakes in this series, so I wouldn't put it past him to just stay where he is and pick up some good points and extend his lead over Brendan Ross. Anyway, we'll take a short break as I conduct the driver's briefing, but we shall be back for race 1 a little bit later on. welcome back to Automobilista Australia Touring Car Championship. Got about 3 minutes left in the warm-up session, where Liam Mitch will be starting on pole position for race 1, with Dwayne Davies starting alongside championship leader. Brenton Foley will be starting from P3, and then we've got Cracker in P4. Brendan Ross has rejoined the server, thankfully, so he will be available and there to race and contend, hopefully, Brenton Foley all the way through, but he does have a bit of work to do around this tight and twisty Oulton Park circuit. So, just to bring up some just to bring up the championship standings there on your screen. So we've got Brenton Foley leading the championship by 3 points. So in the first race at Brands Hatch, I do believe he extended his lead over Brendan Ross, but Brendan Ross in that second race was able to claw it back, and I believe it remains at 3 points, which it was around about 2 or 3 points at the start of the last round as well. So those two inseparable, but Brenton Foley has a golden opportunity in race 1 this evening to extend that gap. Turmo, after a good solid couple rounds, has moved himself up into P3 in the championship. He was down in 6th or 7th before the last round, but good round at Brands Hatch, and that's moved him up to 3rd. Dwayne Davies, also another big mover. He was I think 8th or 9th in the championship. He's now in 4th and looking the goods to certainly close the gap on Brendan Ross and Brenton Foley in front, as well as Turmo. And then we've got Cracker, nice and solid as always. Not the fastest, but he just picks up points everywhere. He's on 69 points. Wayne Whitmore, bit up and down, but still, he's got some good points in the bag. He's on 64 points. Steve Bolger on 56. I do believe he has made it this evening, which is a good effort, because his Mobo, I believe it was his motherboard or something on his computer, had failed a week or so ago. Yep, there he is in the Martini car in the background. We've got Mike Coulston on 55, Ricky Slick on 50, followed by Brownie on 33 points. She won't go to that screen. We'll go to the teams. To see FCR car getting all kinds of sideways coming out of the pits there. We've got FCR Motorsport on 231. Obviously, Brendan Ross and Brenton Foley currently well out in the lead in the championship. So they're well out in front of Flat Spot Racing, who've been very solid. Flat Spot, both the Scuderia Alitalia liveries, as you can see just in the background there. That's them. That's Wayne Whitmore and Mike Coulson. We've got Cracker Racing Team with Cracker and Brownie on 102. Irwin Racing on 100. That has Turmo, and I do believe he did have a teammate for the last round. I'm just trying to remember who that was, but they're on 100 points. D2 Racing and just a solo entry with Dwayne Davies, 71. FCR Motorsport Team Scrouse with Ricky Slick and Gary Neville on 65. Gravel Rush Racing on 56. And Playboy Racing, I cannot remember. I do believe they're on about 35 points or so off the top of my head. Anyway, it's ticked over to the race session. No one has dropped out. Alright, and away we go for the formation lap. And we have Lime Mitch leading us away in the Chevrolet guest car. have Dwayne Davies starting alongside him at the front. He was looking mighty quick throughout practice and didn't get pole position, but he's certainly one to look out for. And behind them, we've got Brenton Foley, our championship leader, starting in third with Cracker alongside. Been doing a nice job in qualifying. Then we've got Turmo in P5. One racing entry. Steve Bolger, back from computer-related layoff. He's starting in P6. Good to have him back. Then we have both the flat spot racing cars. Mike Coulson in 7th, Wayne Whitmore in 8th. Glenn Miles will start in P9, followed by Brownie P10. And then we have Gary Neville in 11th, Brendan Ross in 12th, and Ricky Slick in 13th. So it's unusual to see all the FCR cars all the way back there, except in reverse grid races. So, but as we know, Brendan Ross and Ricky Slick both very, very good at getting past the field at the start of races. So they're ones to look out for as this first lap progresses. And happy snapper, your local circuit, Oulton Park, is a fun little circuit. Certainly much better than some of the ones that we have over here. Little goat tracks, like Simmons Plains, hey Walshy? Alright, so just got one corner to go. And then the safety car will pull in. The drivers have been ordered to stay at 80 kilometres per hour until the start-finish line. And then once the leader hits the start-finish line, we are away. The safety car is in. Grid fairly well formed up. And we are racing. Mitch got a little bit ahead of Dwayne Davies there, and Brenton Foley having a look up the inside, but doesn't get it done. And I think that's Wayne Whitmore. He's dropped a couple spots back. But Line Mitch leads. Dwayne Davies and Brenton Foley right behind him. And Cracker on the defensive with Turmo right behind. Mike Coulson up one spot. Bolger down one spot. And Miles had a solid start, as has Brownie. Both them up one spot. Wayne Whitmore down two. He hasn't had a good start. And now he's got Brendan Ross all over the back of him. And then we've got Gary Neville having a look up the inside of his teammate. Gets it done. Almost runs into the back of Wayne Whitmore, but nice pass from Gary Neville on his championship contending teammate or stablemate. They're not actually in the same team, as teams are limited to 2 cars. At the front though, Lime Mitch leads by half a second. And Davies has closed that back up through the chicane, as you see. I believe that was Glenn Miles off at the chicane, and he's letting everybody go. As you see, Ricky Slick up the inside of Brendan Ross. A little bit of contact there, but no harm done. There's the top 5 really got a little bit of a gap over Mike Coulson. But Brenton Foley looking a little bit quicker than Dwayne Davies on this opening lap. And that is the entire field right there. And not a good run out of the final corner. And Foley all over the back of Dwayne Davies. Just lost half a second. Missing that final corner. Perhaps outbroke himself. We didn't see it as we look at the field go by. And we've got a car off that Steve Bolger is in the barrier. He does have a little bit of rear damage. Hopefully it's not too bad. Just have a look on the replay. What has he done here? Perhaps gone for a move on Mike Coulson. Or perhaps he's touched the grass on the outside. No, he's just lost the back end a little bit. Didn't get on the throttle. Instead, he just decided to hit the brakes and hit the wall. So that's dropped him down to 13th now. He's now behind Glenn Miles, who had an off. Ricky Slick almost having an off there. Brendan Ross still behind Gary Neville. And then behind Wayne Whitmore, he's worked his way up to where he started. Brownie up 3 spots. He's had a good start. Mike Coulson still in 6th place. We've got Turmo still behind Cracker. And Brenton Foley still harassing Dwayne Davies. And on this lap, Dwayne Davies, after that slow final corner, he's brought that gap from 1 second down to 0.7 of a second. So he's a little bit quicker at the moment. Here's Dwayne Davies. Right on board. YouTube Racing Ford Focus. 30.7. It's a very impressive lap time in these cars around here, especially with the weight. Dwayne Davies is on 60 kilos. We will bring that up in between qualifying 2, or in the warm-up for race 2, I should say. We'll bring up the weight ballast, but Dwayne Davies is on 60 kilograms, I believe. It's either 60 or 40. As you see, Turmer run very wide there on the exit of Cascades, as Brenton Foley makes the move up the inside and gets the job done. Davies gives him the space, and now it's Brenton Foley's turn to chase down Lime Mitch, who's doing a very solid job at the moment. Lime Mitch not carrying any weight. Brenton Foley is on 80 kilograms. Behind them, Cracker sort of edged up a little bit back of the D2 and Brenton Foley battle as they battle with each other. You see Brenton Foley running wide there. Nickerbrook. The gap now 1.5 seconds, so Foley doesn't seem to be quite as quick as Dwayne Davies, but he did get the run and got past him at the hairpin, so that might... Obviously, it doesn't really matter all that much to Brenton Foley, being the championship leader. So he can let Lime Mitch really take the win as long as he finishes in front of Dwayne Davies and in front of Brendan Ross. That's all he cares about. 1:30.6 for Lime Mitch. Jack Foley just a hair faster in the final sector. So see both Foley, Davies getting a slide on. These things being front wheel drive. As you see Turmo very, very wide on the grass a little bit, puts his foot on the throttle and is able to save it, but that's lost him a fair chunk of time to Cracker in front, and I do believe it was one of the cars of Foley or Davies or someone ran wide Cascades there as well, so there was a bit of grass kicked up as well. Ricky Slick is now at the back, as you see Bolger and Miles battling it out into the hairpin. Sticks stays in 11th for now. That'll be using up a lot of his front tyre, and in fact it's given Bolger a good run as well. So Miles, a lot of life, a lot of power, a lot of tyre wear as well. So he continued to battle. Gary Neville has finally been passed by his teammate, stablemate Brendan Ross. In front of them, Whitmore trying to get past Bernie now, so Whitmore starts to turn the wick up as he slides through Druids, and that's allowed Brendan Ross right up behind him as Whitmore was very defensive into Lodge. And the fastest lap as Ross goes very, very deep and onto the gravel. Gets out of it though, but he will drop behind his teammate once again. With all that going on, that's allowed Brownie just edge away from Whitmore. In front of them, Mike Coulson, a solid gap. And he's got Turmo 1.5 seconds in front of him. And now we've got Cracker. He's over the back of Dwayne Davies. So perhaps Dwayne Davies' tyres just going off just a little bit, or he's just made a mistake somewhere, because he's 1.5 seconds behind Brenton Foley. And he was quite quick in practice, was Dwayne Davies, so perhaps he was practicing with low fuel, or he's just out of rhythm. He's falling away just a little bit now. He's got Cracker right behind him. Cracker doing a very solid job at the moment. Looking to nick a podium. Right on board. Cracker, as you see Dwayne Davies get that rear end out, and Druids there. Very easy to do in these cars. You've got to get on the throttle as soon as you're off the brake. Cracker's had a good run through Lodge. It's not going to be close enough to make a move into turn 1. So another fastest lap this time. Brent Foley, so Lime Mitch and Foley are very, very close to each other lap time wise, as Dwayne Davies once again gets a slide on. That will be a track cut from running that far wide. You can use a lot of the exit curb and a lot of the curb on the inside there at Old Hall, but that will be a track cut running that wide. Cracker though, not going to be close enough to go up the inside as Dwayne Davies goes defensive at the hairpin. Cracker going to try and get the little crisscross on, but it's too long of a hairpin to really make that work, and he'll have to settle and stay in 4th place for now. And in fact, Davies got a much better exit there and has just extended a little bit of a gap over him. And that's P1. Sly Mitch, Foley. We've got Dwayne Davies, Cracker, Turmo, Mike Coulston, and then his teammate Wayne Whitmore. And there's Gary Neville, the 46 FCR car, and then Brendan Ross, the 444. And then a bit of a gap between Ross and Ricky Slick, who has got past Steve Bolger and Glenn Miles, as we see Bolger try and make the move, but can't quite get it done. Gap at the front, well, it's 1.5 seconds, so they're Foley running wide there, exit the final corner. Would have cost him a little bit of time, or would have thought so. No, didn't. 1:30.6 and 1:30.6 with Foley about half a tenth in it. Half a tenth faster, but that was very wide there. Oh, well, that will be a track cut. So you get 4 of those, and it is a drive-through penalty. So on the 3rd one, you do get a warning. He's pushing very, very hard. So he's not settling now. He is not settling just for a 2nd place. In fact, he made up a couple tenths there in the 1st split. So using an extra bit of track and getting a track cut did gain him some time. But I do believe Lion Mitch may have made a slight mistake at Cascades, which is essentially turn 2. And they're going through Hislops. And now Knickerbrook. Very wide there from Lion Mitch. It doesn't appear to have cost him too much time. We've had Dwayne Davies DNF. What has happened? Is he ripped the wheel off? Well, he's dropped back from Cracker, so something's happened to Cracker because he is behind Turmo there. And then Dwayne Davies, perhaps internet's disconnected. Oh no, he's hit the tyre barrier, which is solid, and his engine's off. That's killed the engine, and Dwayne Davies is looking like it's going to be a good weekend for him. Unfortunately, that's him out of the race. And with all that going on, we don't know what happened. Well, Cracker at 1:35.5. He's now behind Turmo. So now it's a straight fight between Foley and Mitch for the lead, and now Turmo and Cracker for P2. But we'll try and actually find and see what happened to Cracker. I'll just go and rewind. Alright, so this is what happened. So side by side with Davies into turn 2. Cascades, Cracker a little bit too hot. He's ran wide and he's had a half spin on the grass, and that dropped him behind Davies and then Turmo. Right, back live, and he's now in front of Turmo. So something's happened. Here we go. He's made the move. Just go back. So Turmo must have made a slight mistake. So we'll go back a little bit further. Yeah, riding aboard. Turmo's run very wide there. Got a slide on. Hasn't gone off the road, but just that slowdown. It is a pretty quick corner there at Cascades, and even though Cracker was a fair way back initially, that speed difference through there and having the inside at the island hairpin, and then obviously Turmo there running very wide, cost him. That said though, he's not giving up as we come back live. Under a second. These guys are only 2 seconds in front of Mike Coulston. And Whitmore's got 3 seconds over his teammate, who's got 2.2 over Ross, so Ross has got past Neville once again. At the front though, gap still just edging. There's only about half a tenth. When these guys don't make a mistake, there's about half a tenth, if that, between these two. Very, very quick, very, very consistent. The gap was 1.2 seconds. It was 1.3 on the last lap. So these guys, there's not going to be much in it, I think. What will decide it is mistakes. If Lion Mitch doesn't make a mistake, I think he'll have the top speed without having a weight penalty compared to 80 kilos on Brenton Foley around this tight, twisty, and quite quick in some sections track, it'll make it almost impossible for Foley to get by. So if Mitch doesn't make a mistake, the race is his. But if he does, our two-time defending champion Brenton Foley is right there to pick up on it. So you see, Lyman just a little bit wide there through Jewett's, and that's allowed Foley just to edge just a little bit closer and just turn the wick up just a little bit more. That said though, Lime Mitch, this is much more consistent what we've seen in other series in the past. So he's doing a good job at the moment, but he's still got 11 minutes plus that extra lap to go. So 31.1 for Mitch on that lap, and Brenton Foley must have got a track cut, so lap time did come up. So we know he's got at least, he's probably had at least one more before that. As you saw, he ran wide at turn 1 once or twice. So that's something to look out for. We might see him pick up a drive-through if he's not careful. So he's going to have to play it a bit safe and conservative. Unless he wants to give himself a drive-through penalty. That said though, he's done a good first sector and he's right there with Lime Mitch. Gap now 0.8 of a second. And then the battle behind them between Turmo and Cracker. So Turmo has got past Cracker at some point. Cracker, looking at the gap, Cracker's made a mistake. Might Coulson actually, yeah, Coulson hasn't made a mistake. He's now 2.8 seconds behind Cracker. So Coulson keeps going the way he's going, and Whitmore keeps going the way he's going, as well as Brendan Ross picking up his pace. We could see a nice little battle form for P3, but probably need a couple of mistakes from Cracker and Turmo to just spice it up just a little bit more. The front though, looks like Lime Mitch in that middle sector just edged a couple thousandths of a second over Foley, so it's really stabilising. That's it though, very good final corner for Lime Mitch. I reckon that gap's extended out a little bit. Yes, it has, by about a tenth and a half. 31.0 for Foley, 30.899. For Lime Mitch. Absolutely nothing between these two. This is the closest racing, I think, in terms of just pace between two drivers we've seen all season between, well, two different cars and two different teams. Because we have seen Brendan Ross and Brenton Foley be pretty close to each other a couple of times this season. But even then, usually there was a little bit of a difference between the two. This time, though, there's not even a cigarette paper between these two. It looks like Foley's just that little bit quicker in the first sector, but Lime Mitch, especially in that final corner, seems to just be that little bit quicker. So Foley using a lot of curb there. Kislops didn't unsettle the car too much. Nice exit from Lime Mitch. And yeah, Foley a bit quicker in that middle sector as well. So he gained a little bit the first and gained almost 2/10 there, which is probably the biggest gain we've seen in quite a while between these two, or change of gap between them. That said though, Lime Mitch, very nice exit out of Druids. In fact, we're right on board once again, and just see the exit from Lime Mitch compared to Foley. So Foley's not quite getting on the power as early as he'd like. Probably a metre or so late on the brakes. It's cost him just a hair of a time. That said though, 0.9 of a second. So Lime Mitch about a tenth or so faster in that final sector. And Mitch pushing very, very hard behind them. Turmo edging a gap now over Cracker. So Turmo looks like he's found a little bit of consistency and starting to get used to the track. Cracker seems to make just a little couple of mistakes that's dropping him back. And he's also put a bit of time on Mike Coulson, who may have made a mistake, or perhaps Cracker just a lot quicker on that last lap. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you because Live Races isn't working at the moment, so I do apologise for that. At the moment, we'll stick this battle for the lead. Absolutely nothing between these two. That said though, been a solid first half a lap for Brenton Foley's got the gap to 6.5 tenths, but he's made a mistake somewhere because that's 1.2. So perhaps not a good run there through Hislops, costing him a bit of time. Ooh, and he's a bit wide there at Druids, and that'll cost him a bit of time. He's kept his foot in it, and it will be interesting to see if he gets a track cut for that, because he didn't lift. No doubt it would have cost him a little bit of time, but AMS doesn't like it when you keep your foot in it when you're off the circuit. So his lap time did count, and it did cost him about 0.4 of a second. So Lime Mitch doing, well, he's driving absolutely sublimely at the moment. Superbly. He's not making any mistakes. Really, he's putting the pressure on Brenton Foley, who is the benchmark in this series. Without that weight, I'm sure it'd be a little bit different, but still, Mitch did a fantastic job, not making any mistakes and forcing Foley into a couple little mistakes here and there. And then between Turmo and Cracker, 2.1 seconds, so sort of stabilised a little bit. On that last lap, Coulson sort of stabilised the gap between himself and Cracker at about, was 4.7 seconds, but looks like lifetime is just playing up just a little bit, so it says 5.2. Coulson sort of a little bit out on his own there in the Flat Spot Racing Alitalia sponsored car. Scott Whitmore 3 or so seconds behind him. And then about 3 seconds between Whitmore and Ross. And Ross looks like he's shaking Gary Neville. Gary Neville was sticking with him quite a few laps there. I did see on the timing board there, but last lap or two, Ross has eked out a bit of a gap. Looks like Foley has dropped a bit of time on this lap. Gap 3.1 seconds and got a track cut there somewhere. So we'll just have a look. Is it the last corner or is it a bit earlier? It wasn't at Druids, is it at Lodge that he's made a little bit of a mistake? Let's have a look. Well, it's not the ideal line, but that must have happened earlier in the lap. So it looks like Lime Mitch, he's got one hand on the Race 1 trophy at the moment. He's just got to keep it on the grey stuff. And make sure he's going at a reasonable speed. So a bit of a lock up there for Brenton Foley. I think that probably would have been a decent line actually, so it wouldn't have cost him much time there. And Foley's got 8.6 seconds over Turmo, and Turmo's lost about half a second on that last lap. In fact, perhaps a little bit more between himself and Cracker. So Cracker still pushing to the end. Still 4 minutes plus an extra lap remaining. Oh, and we've had an off. It's Foley. He's missing a wheel. And he's out. Brendan Foley is going to be out, so he's going to take a comfortable second place, but he's pushing to catch up to Lime Mitch. And this is now going to turn into a free kick for Brendan Ross, who wasn't able to qualify. He's not been quick in the race. So Foley just a little bit too eager turning in here, I'm going to assume. Yeah, exactly what Dwayne Davies did. And missing a front right wheel, and out is Brenton Foley. So Brendan Ross now will assume the lead in the Drivers' Championship. Lime Mitch will take a comfortable victory, barring some kind of mistake. We'll see Turmo finish on the podium, barring mistake, and we'll have Cracker also on the podium, barring mistake, because they're a good 6 seconds in front of Mike Coulston. It's going to be a good result for Flat Spot Racing, with drivers 4th and 5th on the road. But what a turn of events. It's going to turn the championship on its head. But if it's any consolation for Brenton Foley, it's not been a good race one so far for Brendan Ross. So he's down in 6th at the moment after that retirement, and is quite a fair way away from Wayne Whitmore. He's 5.5 seconds off the road. In fact, he's going to have to deal with his teammate Gary Neville, who's caught back up to him again. So Ross has made a mistake somewhere, because he's got time to Whitmore, and he's now got Gary Neville right behind him once again. The closest battle on track is the one between Turmo and Cracker, and then also do have the Ross Neville battle, but I don't know if Gary Neville will be allowed to pass Brendan Ross. It will be interesting to see. My Mitch 12 seconds up the road from Turmo. 31.4 for Mitch on that last lap. He's come up to lap done miles. Let's see Bolger down a lap, so he's had an incident somewhere. And a 31.7 for Turmo. 31.6 for Cracker, so Cracker's going to have to find just a little bit more time if he wants to nick P2 off Tomo right at the death. Coulston 32 for Whitmore as well. And it looks like it's just edged away a little bit from going over, but he's in the 33s, so he's not liking this Oulton Park circuit. Finds himself in P6, but his championship rival and teammate is out after battling for the lead for a large portion of the race. Had been making a couple of steady mistakes a lap or two, a couple laps prior to his DNF. But Foley will be kicking himself, making an unforced error really, because I don't think he was going to catch Lime Mitch, and he had a big gap to Cracker, and obviously his championship rival and teammate Brendan Ross was down in 7th place at the time, so he was bound to put quite a few points on him, but now he's given up the championship lead. And the gap for P2 has come between P2 and 3. It's come down to less than a second, 0.8 of a second, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen. And as Lime Mitch has crossed the start-finish line with about 30 so seconds remaining, this lap that he's on now will be the penultimate one, because he's not going to cross the line again. 4 times strike 0. Tomo's had a good final sector. He's extended his gap. Cracker 0.3 of a second. But he's got a bit of a slide on. He did that before and allowed Cracker to get by. And Cracker now right behind Turmo. Turmo goes, no, he's not going defensive. So, well, he has, but it's a bit late now. Cracker up the inside of the island hairpin. And, well, it's like going back 8 or so minutes or 10 or so minutes. Exact same mistake from Turmo and the exact same result with him not going defensive, and time has expired. The next lap will be the final lap, so really, as you see, Cracker's made a bit of a mistake there through Hislops, but if he just blocks the apex there, he won't allow Turmo back by. Cracker is, well, looked like he was going defensive, but George's too quick to really make a move. In fact, looking up the inside, it's probably compromised Turmo a little bit, but Cracker has run wide, which did actually compromise Turmo a little bit. Had to back out of the throttle to run aboard. So Lime Mitch has started the 18th and what will be the final lap of the race. Turmo all over the back of Cracker. He is close enough to make a move into turn 1, but the question is, will he? No, doesn't. Solid's better of it. Probably wants to set it up for the hairpin. Cracker runs wide. He's going to go defensive. He's going to force Turmo to go around the outside of Cascades. It's going to be brave, but he's done it for now. But can he hold on to it? Now, is Cracker going to be close enough to make the move into the hairpin? No. So Turmo gets the job done around the outside, but he's got really one more or two more chances, does Cracker, to get back P2. We've had Mike Coulston unfortunately DNF. I don't know what's happened. Going by how things have gone for a few of the other guys out there, I'm going to assume that he's ran into one of these solid tyre barriers. Alright, so Cracker couldn't get the job done. But Hislops, he's very close at Nickelbrook, but he hasn't had a good exit, so now he's going to have to set it up through Druids and make a big lunge at Lodge Corner, the final real breaking point of the circuit. Up in the lead though, Lime Mitch. Lime Mitch will take victory. Race 1 of round 4. Cracker right behind Turmo as they both come up to lap. A little bit of contact between Turmo and Cracker. I do believe Turmo may have been just held up a little bit from the lap traffic. It's going to be a dead heat between the two, but Turmo will hold on for P2 in the end. And Cracker will finish P3. Miles thankfully didn't cause too much of an issue, but I don't think Turmo would be too happy though. Wayne Whitmore will take P4 after his teammate, who was running in P4, DNF'd the lap to go. So very frustrating for Flat Spot Racing. It's going to be a very, very good round or race for them, but that DNF costing them dearly. Brendan Ross stole P5 from Gary Neville. Perhaps team orders in the end. In fact, we'll have a look on the replay, because Gary Neville was in front of Brendan Ross before the start of the final lap. Couldn't see it there, but Brendan Ross will finish P5, so that's good for his championship hopes with Foley being out. Gary Neville, P6, is probably a bit quicker than Brendan Ross around here, to be honest, but he's found himself behind him in P6. Ricky Slick, he's done 18 laps plus the 3 laps he did in qualifying, so not a bad effort from someone that's only driven this track in the last 30 minutes. And then we've got Glenn Miles in P8. Bolger continued on after his contact or incident that we did see off camera. Unfortunately, we didn't see it, so he finished a lap down. And then Mike Coulston, our first or last of the DNFs, with an accident or something towards the end there. In fact, we'll have a look and see if he's got all wheels on his wagon. He does, so perhaps he didn't rip a wheel off. Normally when you do, or actually no, it might have reset. Normally when you have an accident, at least in R Factor, it would, in the garage, it would show the missing wheel or damage. But we didn't see what happened to Coulson, but unfortunate DNF for him. And Brenton Foley and Dwayne Davies having the exact same accident at Knickerbrook, hitting the tyre barrier on the inside and ripping their wheels off and killing the engine. And Brownie had a DNF that unfortunately we didn't see on camera, but he was actually running quite well up until that DNF. Alright, well that's race 1 done and dusted. And we will have another qualifying session. Well, actually, no, it will be another race. It is the reverse grid race, where only those that finished are eligible for the reverse grid. So those that, so Mike Coulson, Dwayne Davies, Brenton Foley, and Brownie, they aren't eligible, and they'll start where they DNF'd. So Mike Coulston will start, I think it's 10th, followed by Brenton Foley, Dwayne Davies, and then Brownie, who was the first of the DNF, or did not finish. Anyway, just take a short break, but we shall be back in a couple moments. Alright, and welcome back. So, in the warm-up, the reverse grid has been set. I'll just go over the reverse grid for you guys. So, we will have Steve Bolger will lead us away. He did finish, albeit a lap down, as did Glenn Miles. So, it'll be Steve Bolger and Glenn Miles at the front, followed by Gary Neville and Brendan Ross. Wayne Whitmore will start 5th. Cracker will start in 6th. Termo in P7. Lime Mitch P8. And then our non-finishers, Mike Coulston will start 9th. Brenton Foley will start P10. Dwayne Davies P11. Brownie P12. And you're asking, well, they're out of position by one. That's because Ricky Slick requested to start at the back because he's not done enough laps to feel he is able to safely traverse the circuit. So that is why he is starting at the back. It was requested by the driver and the team. So something I did mean to bring up, that's just a little information on the circuit. Location that isn't quite, that's the name of the circuit, but that's why it's not quite the location, but Oulton Park, England, 3.616 kilometres, at least this layout is 7 turns, 2 races tonight, as there always is in the Touring Car Championship, with this race being the reverse grid race, and as you saw, 25 minutes, and then once time expires, 1 extra lap after that. I'm going to try and bring, let's have a look here, the weight, and there it is on your screen for those that are wondering. So, Brenton Foley and Brendan Ross, their championship leaders, both sharing 80 kilograms, and Brenton Foley, he's used to that. I do believe last season he was at, and in fact in season 1 he may have even had 120 kilos at some stage, but I know last season he was at 100 kilos for a portion, but 80 kilos is what the max will be this season. The way Dane Davies is going, if he doesn't DNF in this one and he finds a way to win the race, we might see him move up to 80, depending on his pace. But then again, in the race pace, he did drop behind Foley and was falling away before he DNF'd. Got Wayne Whitmore on 40 kilos, as is Termo. Whitmore might find himself 20 kilos lighter in the subsequent rounds. So he has struggled for the last couple rounds. And we've got Ricky Slick also. He might drop down to 20 kilos as well. And then Steve Bolger also on 40 kilos. He might find himself 20 kilos lighter, depending on how he goes in the final race of the evening. And just to recap on championship standings before the round, it was 117 points. I'm just going to have a look actually and see if the points standings have been updated after that race. No, they haven't. But I can try and update them on the fly. In fact, it's a good round for Termo actually. He claws his way up 20 points from 77 to 97 points. So that brings him to within 20 points of Brenton Foley. But of course, Brendan Ross did pick up 12 points for his 5th place. So he's on 126 points. Dane Davies also costly for him. He was on 71, so he drops 26 points behind Termo now. In fact, just so you're not so bored, I'll actually try and go out there and find someone that's going out there doing some laps. Have a look at Cracker while I do the update the championship standings. There you go. So Cracker out there getting some practice in. I wonder actually if Ricky Slick's out there doing practice. He probably should be. No, he's not out there on the circuit, but we are seeing Brendan Ross, Brownie and Steve Bolger, as well as Cracker, out there on the circuit cutting some laps. And no, there's Brenton Foley. He's looking to do some laps as well. Cracker, he moves to 85 points, Whitmore to 78. So Whitmore and Cracker both moving up in front of Dwayne Davies in the championship. Steve Bolger moves to 63 points. Ricky Slick moves in front of Mike Coulston. He moves to 59 points. Steve Bolger all kinds of sideways through Druids. Yes, and I was thinking of the Irwin racing car that was Terminus teammate. That is River Whisper, who is not here this evening. Bit of a shame, but we do hope he's able to make it for the next round at Floripa, which the drivers haven't driven before. They have been at Oulton Park. It was on the calendar last season. But it'll be interesting. It's a very, very long lap at Floripa, and those front tyres are going to cop a little bit of a beating. And it's a bit of a technical circuit with a couple of long straights as well. So if some of the lesser drivers can just work on their technique, they are a chance. There will be a chance at Floripa. Glenn Miles moves in front of River Whisper with that as well. He moves to 30 points. Gary Neville moves to 25 points. There's obviously Lime Mitch moving to 25 and moving in front of Gary Neville. So they're both now in front of Brian Walsh, who was on 21, and they also move in front of Real Whisper, who both of them not here tonight, unfortunately, but hopefully we see them out there for the next round. But just to speak on the calendar, we still have a minute and 40 remaining. So Floripa is the next round of the championship. Will be an interesting one, with the drivers not having a race there before. And then we do have Guapore, which was on the calendar last season. Provided some good entertaining racing. Short little circuit. The lap times off the top of my head were about 1 minute 12 or 1 minute 15 or so long. But once again, the front right hand tyre there cops an absolute battering. So on that time there, even though Bolger is all over the place on the road, 1:31.7, it's not too bad if he can replicate that in the race, but albeit a bit more consistently. And somehow he's up on his own time there, despite running very wide at Cascades. We've got Cracker out there doing 1:35s, and Brendan Ross has just beaten that. So Brendan Ross, hopefully he'll be hoping to make amends after a pretty poor showing in that first race. He will be starting up just a little bit higher this time out, which will help him. But certainly pace-wise, that pace just wasn't there in that first race. But also going back to the calendar, after Guapore we have our first modded track ever. So we will be running at City Motorsport Park / Eastern Creek. And Brendan Ross up again, so he's looking quite handy at the moment. But yeah, Sydney Motorsport Park, or Eastern Creek, whatever you want to call it. And that is the short layout. That's not the full layout which the supercars and other series run on. It's the shorter layout which sort of cuts out that middle section. So after I think it's turn 3 or 4 there. After turn 3, instead of going right and into that little middle sector, you actually go straight, and there's a little bit of or slightly to the left, and then there's a quick little chicane over the hill in the middle of the circuit, and then you come out the back on the back side of where the little hairpin is in the middle sector on the full lap. So it'll be about just over a minute or so long, but I'm hoping and that it'll be similar to Brands Hatch in a way, where it'll be a short lap, but provide some action-packed racing as it ticks over to the race session. And as we stay on the topic of the calendar as well, and then we go back to Adelaide, which was on the calendar last season. Did have a controversial moment where Johnny, well, it has to be said, it looked like he deliberately took out Brenton Foley at the hairpin, which has resulted in Johnny having quite a severe ban, and he will be permitted to race again once this series, once the GT3 series ends in a few weeks' time. So end of the month, he should be permitted to race again, should he watch, but yeah, hopefully we don't see that again. And then the final round of the championship of this series in its current form, will be at, once again, Interlagos, the cafe layout, as Steve Bolger gets us underway for the formation lap. So Interlagos, Interlagos and Goiânia have hosted the first and final rounds of each of the 3 seasons of the Automobilista Australia Touring Car Championship. Following this season, TCC will be rebranded in a way similar. It's probably going to be something like Automobilista, TCR Oz or something along those lines, as we're going to be putting together some cars which sort of resemble the TCR series, which has just begun in Australia, albeit they're not going to be quite the same. I do believe there's 1 or 2 models which are TCR cars, but others will be former World Touring Car Championship cars the last couple of years. So I have Citroens and updated Ford Focuses and newer Hondas as well as Alfa Romeos and stuff like that. Anyway, getting back to what is on our screens currently, we've got Steve Bolger leading us away. He's got Glenn Miles starting alongside him. Then we have Gary Neville, who's looking quite handy in that last race. He was looking a bit quicker than Brendan Ross, though, in that first race, but a couple of mistakes dropped him behind Ross. But Ross in the warm-up did seem to find a little bit of pace in the low 31s and could possibly hit a 1:30 had the warm-up session been a bit longer. Then we have Wayne Whitmore P5, Cracker P6. These two, as well as Ross, are the ones to look out for. And it'll also be interesting to see how Bolger goes. If Bolger can get a clean break from Ross behind, we could see Bolger steal a win. And then Turmo P7 and Lime Mitch P8. They've got a bit of work to do. It's going to be tough to pass around here, but it is a reverse grid race and anything can and often does happen. Then Mike Coulston 9th, Brent Foley 10th, Dwayne Davies 11th, Brownie 12th, and Ricky Slick rounding out the field in 13th. The field being told to stay at 80 k's until the start-finish line. Over the start-finish line we go, and Bolger will lead us away. Gary Neville looks up the inside of Glenn Miles, and he's going to have to go the long way around to Cascades, and in fact he's got Brendan Ross also looking to go around the outside as well. Ross very twitchy under braking, and he's going to try and hold it around the outside. We did see Turmo managed to do that, and he hasn't quite done it. Behind them, looks like Brenton Foley's had a fantastic start. He's up quite a few spots there, and he's having a look up the inside of Turmo and Cracker, and gets it done. It causes a bit of contact between his teammate, who has to run along the inside of the big sausage curb, but still up 4 spots. Brenton Foley past Cracker, past Turmo, past Mike Coulston, and past Lime Mitch. So fantastic start from Brenton Foley, who has been the master at these reverse grid races. And we see Turmo, I don't know if he got punted there, but lost the back end. We'll just have a quick look on the replay and see if he did. Did have Mike Coulston, I believe, right behind him, the 66 Alitalia car, and Lime Mitch behind him as well. So just have a look on the replay. Did he lose it under brake? Sorry about that. No, it looks like he got a little bit of a serve there from Mike Coulston, and Turmo now, unfortunately, back down to 13th. So that's a real shame But at the front, Steve Bolger's got a massive lead, or he hasn't got a massive lead, he's got Gary Neville right behind him. But these have a massive lead over Ross, who's just got past Miles, and now Foley all over the back. And he's gotten past Wayne Whitmore, so it's all bottleneck behind Glenn Miles. And Miles having a look up the inside and gone 3 wide into turn 1 there, so it's all happening. Both the Alitalia cars side by side, and then Lion Mitch picks his way past Coulston and isn't quite close enough for Whitmore to get past at Cascades, but it is all happening at the start here. That said though, Bolger and Neville, they're 6 seconds up the road from those guys. 5.1 in front of Brendan Ross. Miles very, very wide. Inexplicably on the power when he knew he was going to go off the road. A little bit of contact between Mitch and Whitmore there. And then you've got Dwayne Davies having a look up the inside of Brownie there. He gets the job done. And now Cracker has to deal with Glenn Miles. Angry train behind him. Brownie would run out of the chicane. And Turmo has caught up to the back of this pack here in front of them. Lion Mitch in a flat spot racing sandwich, but is looking mighty quick and might get out of it already. Non-defensive into turn 1 a little bit. Sort of parks himself in the middle of the road. He's going to compromise his exit a little bit. Hasn't had too bad an exit. Foley is just edging away from him though. Foley's got to make up 1.6 over championship rival and teammate Brendan Ross, who's 4.3 behind. So he's gained about 8 tenths on Gary Neville on that last lap. And there's 8 tenths between Neville and Bolger. So Bolger and Neville both having a pretty decent run. Both of them, well, Gary Neville in particular, quite good pace-wise, it has to be said around here. Although, unfortunately in that last race, must have made a couple of little mistakes which got him behind Brendan Ross. Looking back though, somehow Glenn Miles still in front of Cracker and Dwayne Davies, who are now battling it out. Dwayne Davies trying to have a look up the inside, but doesn't quite get it done at Hislops. Has to sit back behind Cracker, who's just eked away. He's had a better run through the chicane and now looking to attack Glenn Miles and clear him and hopefully catch up to Mike Coulston, who's 3.2 seconds up the road from him. So he's lost a fair chunk of time being stuck behind Glenn Miles and also having to deal with Dwayne Davies and Ricky Slick as well off the road. He's kept it going, but we'll just have a look. I think he might have just clipped the grass on the entry there, and that sent him spinning off in the background. So let's just have a look. No, he's just come in too hot and lost the back end. Just had to gas it up to straighten the car out. Ooh, and he's hit the wall in a bad way, and unfortunately that is Ricky Slick done for the evening. So big shame for our fans from Alabama, particularly Birmingham. Nice battle for the lead at the moment though, and half a second between Bolger and Neville. Neville flying the flag for CR Motorsport Team Grouse. He's sort of pegged the amount of pace that Ross was gaining on him. Only gained 3 tenths on that last lap, and Ross now, he's going to have to start dealing with Brenton Foley, who's was 1.4 seconds, but I reckon it's under a second now. He's had a very quick line run through that chicane there. Yeah, it's about a second, I'd say. At least using the Mark II eyeballs. Coming up to the second split, and yeah, 8 tenths of a second. So Foley is coming. A fantastic start to this race. We've seen it time and time again from Foley. His reverse grid races, he's just able to get through the field, make up places. Behind him though, Lion Mitch all over the back of Whitmore again. Mitch having a look. It's not close enough though. A little bit of a locker from Whitmore. Perhaps just that rear tyre just bouncing along the ground, providing that smoke. But Whitmore doing a good job absorbing the pressure. Foley 30.8, so very quick lap time from him. And we've had Gary Neville actually move into the lead. So I'll just have a look and see. Oh, looks like, yeah, there it is. So Steve Bolger, too aggressive that final corner at Lodge. Too early on the power or too late on the brakes. One of the two or even a bit of both. And that's given Gary Neville the run and it moves him into the lead. Very important for Gary Neville just to keep it consistent for the next couple of laps because Ross is going to have to, or he will start battling Brenton Foley. And if he doesn't make a mistake, should Gary Neville not make a mistake, I don't think Bolger will quite have that extra pace to get by him. So Neville's real battle will be with his teammates in Ross and Foley. So he'll be hoping that Ross and Foley just duke it out. As Foley is now right behind Brendan Ross. So he'll be hoping these two battle it out for a few laps and it will buy him time for later in the race. Back though, got Mike Coulston jumping through the field. I don't know if that's live timing because it says he's in 12th place, but he's right behind his teammate on the road. Hopefully he hasn't gone wide somewhere and messed up his live timing. And Whitmore has dropped behind. No, there it is. It has fixed itself, thankfully. But yeah, we've seen Whitmore drop behind Line Mitch. I'm just going to cut back and find a little replay and see what happened. Alright, so coming out of turn 2, out of Cascades, Line Mitch got the good run and sort of sold Whitmore a dummy. And Whitmore outbroke himself a little bit and that was all Line Mitch needed as an invitation. Just sent it up the inside after that and got the job done. Whitmore did have a look coming to Hislops, but not quite close enough. Back live though. He's not really dropped too far off Line Mitch, who started to catch up to Brendan Ross, who has lost out. So Ross has already dropped behind Brenton Foley. So just cut back and see what has happened here. It's a long way back. So going through Druids and Foley much quicker. Side by side into Lodge. Bit of contact. Foley did squeeze Ross just a little bit. Very reminiscent, actually. There was an incident between, I think it was Matt Neal and his teammate, the British Touring Car Championship by EFC. Line Mitch fastest lap at 30.7. Yeah, in the British Touring Car Championship, both I believe it was on the last lap even, two Honda teammates running into each other. And I believe it gave Jason Plato the victory that day. And Turmo out of nowhere, 130.5. He's down in 10th. If he sets up times like that and there's a couple battles in front of him go his way, he could find himself in the top 5, but he's going to need a bit of help along the way. 12 seconds, 15 minutes, as I said, is possible, but he's going to need a few battles. I think his best bet probably going to be 6th or 7th with Whitmore and Coulson battling it out. As we see Brenton Foley now, ball over the back of Steve Bolger. He's going to try and go around the outside and a bit of contact. He's going to have to go around the outside at Druids, but somehow held it around the outside at Knickerbrook. I don't know, he's going to try the outside. Bolger gives him the room, and he's done it around the outside of Knickerbrook and around the outside of Druids, and that moves Foley now up into P2. And now Ross trying to get in on that action, and he will take Steve Bolger for P3 now. Ryan Mitch pushing very hard in the back there, as you can see, but Bolger not wanting to give up P3 just yet. Trying to get a run on Brendan Ross. It's a P1, it's not quite close enough. The gap between Foley and Neville, 2.1 seconds. I don't think that'll take too long for Foley to close down. Gary Neville doing a splendid job at the moment. I believe this is the first time he has led. Perhaps even in Automobilista Australia, let alone the Touring Car Championship. And already 6/10 in the first sector. Brenton Foley quicker than Gary Neville. So I think it's only a matter of time. That said though, if Ross can find a way to get himself on the back of Foley, they could battle again. And we've got Lime Mitch having a look at the inside of Bolger. All over the sausage curb, almost rolled it. It is possible in these cars. So nice little battle pack. It's Foley, another 6/10 of a second in the middle sector. Travelling along very, very nicely. In fact, he probably has to get it done pretty quickly because Lime Mitch isn't too far away. Lime Mitch has got a good run through Druids, and I think he's going to get it done here into Lodge. That's it though. Bolger very late on the brakes. He's going to try and hold it around the outside, but he's too wide. Got on the power too early. It's out on the grass. And that's going to drop him now out of that battle pack, and it's going to give Lime Mitch a clean run on Brenton Foley, who set his personal best of 30.6, and now he's right behind stablemate Gary Neville. So it's FCR 1, 2, 3, although FCR Team Sprouse in the lead with FCR Motorsport in 2 and 3. He's already having a look, and I think he's going to get it done into the hairpin. Yeah, Gary Neville doesn't make it too difficult for him. Oh, and it didn't get on the power. He couldn't quite get it turned in, did Gary Neville. He's going to lose out to Brendan Ross as well. So now it's an FCR 1-2. And Lime Mitch there, he's close enough to have a look. He's showing his nose a little bit, but not quite close enough. So Lime Mitch is there. It's not too far away from lead, 2.2 seconds. And Gary Neville very, very defensive, but Lime Mitch is going to force his way to the inside. No, he's not. He's having a look anyway, and he's going to send it up the inside. That's a bit cheeky. It's not really an overtaking corner. Perhaps just a little bit aggrieved after some serious blocking from Gary Neville out of Nickerbrook. And now Steve Bolger having a look up the inside, and Lime Mitch having to go defensive at Lodge. For now, Lime Mitch hold on to P4, and he'll want to clear Gary Neville as quickly as possible. Otherwise, Steve Bolger giving him a bit of grief. Oh, and Lime Mitch very, very wide. That will be a track cut. In fact, he's almost past Gary Neville from doing that, so that's a bit cheeky. Probably would have earned himself a penalty had he got past Gary Neville doing that. And at the front though, Brendan Ross has put in a solid lap, and he's now right behind Brenton Foley as well. As you see Steve Bolger have a look, he's gone very, very deep into the hairpin, and he's collected Gary Neville, and he's wiped the wheel off, so that's affected Gary Neville badly. And it's wrecked his own race, so a bit disappointing there from Steve Bolger. It's ruined Gary Neville's chance at a podium, and it's probably going to uncork Lime Mitch now to get after the two FCR cars. With all that going on though, Wayne Whitmore has closed the gap to Gary Neville, and he's dragged Dwayne Davies along with him. Davies hasn't quite shown the pace and promise that he showed in practice. Stuck behind Wayne Whitmore in this one. See Whitmore now, he's got a bit defensive. Sort of wandering all over the road there. He's broke himself a little bit, not the greatest run. Through Lodge. Behind them, Coulston and Cracker battling it out for P7. And Turmo not far away either. I was going to say that Turmo's best bet might be 6th, but with that DNF of Bolger and possible damage to, as you see Coulston once again doing a bit of lawn mowing. And Cracker having to look up the inside, he's going to get that done. And we see Whitmore and Davies side by side at the hairpin. Whitmore holds on for now. Davies going to try and switch back, but it's not going to be enough. And Turmo around the outside at the island hairpin. A little bit of contact with Coulston, but doesn't slow Turmo enough down. And Turmo will move up now into 8. So Turmo did say 6 was a possibility if battles did go his way. And it has to be said, if he keeps this pace up and gets past Cracker, he could find himself battling even for P4. But he will need a bit of help with 8 minutes remaining at the front though. See, Lime Mitch all over the grass there. Pushing very hard through Druids. Too hard, he's going to do some lawn mowing. Brendan Ross has dropped a little bit off Brenton Foley, but I think Foley's made a little bit of a mistake because he's lost, I think, a little bit of time. At least visually, it doesn't look like 1.8 seconds between the two. A 31.1 for Ross, a 30.7 for Foley. So Foley just does what he did in the first race for most of the race and just stay in the mid to high 30s and low 31s once his tyres do start to go off in probably a couple of laps time. Probably will take it. Did edge a 10th out from Brendan Ross, who's 1.8 ahead of Lime Mitch. Ross is going to have to be a little bit more consistent and he's going to have to get himself into the 30s if he wants to take this one away from Brenton Foley. That said though, Ross is in the championship lead and if he does stay in P2, he will retain that championship lead. Something he wasn't able to do in the previous round. That said though, Lime Mitch has had a very, very good first and middle sector. That gap was 1.3 seconds. It is definitely, well, it was going to say a lot less than that, but Lime Mitch locked up and he's had to cut the chicane at Hislops and Knickerbrook, and that will drop him back quite a bit of time, probably about a second or so. In fact, it only cost him 2/10, but that was from the previous split and not where he was on track. It would have been less than a second when he did go off. Gary Neville still doing a good job there in 4th place. Whitmore and Davies continue to battle it out, but Davies is looking a little bit quicker at the moment. He's looking a bit closer to Wayne Whitmore as well as Whitmore again sort of just parks himself in the middle of the road at that final corner. I think Davies is going to have to take a wider entry, square a corner and set himself up for turn 1. That said though, he's had a good exit. Should probably try and force Whitmore to go defensive, which he has, and then try and set him up for Druids, or not for Druids, for Cascades or the Island hairpin. He probably wants to think a corner or two ahead. Oh, just had to sort of check up a little bit as Whitmore didn't have the greatest run, the entry to Cascades. And it's balked Davies a little bit. So that said though, very, very defensive from Whitmore. It's going to allow Davies to close in again. Both of them taking interesting lines. Had Cracker get past Mike Coulston. Brownie's moved his way up to 9th. And Turmo's pitted. What has happened to Turmo? Oh, he's missing a rear wing. So what has happened here? We're going to go back and have a look. Alright, so Turmo pushing hard through Druids, pushed too hard, lost the back end, got on the grass and rear end into the barrier, and there goes his rear wing. Shouldn't be suspension damage, but he's had to pit to replace that rear wing. But back live, and good run from Davies through Druids, set himself up for a good run at Lodge. Turns in on him a little bit, but Davies in too good of a position is able to pull it up and is now up into P5. And I think he's a bit quicker than Whitmore. He's pushing hard, a little bit of a lock up there from Whitmore, pushing hard on the exit. And Davies' job still isn't done for him, but I think he does have a pace advantage over Whitmore. He's just got to consolidate, and I reckon he'll give Gary Neville a bit of a fight towards the end. At the front though, Ross and Mitch side by side, and getting it done on the switchback. Lime Mitch, I'll just have a look and see what's happened here. So he did close the gap up. Ross, big slide at Cascades. We've seen that a number of times this evening, and it's happened again. So Ross had to try, he went to make another move, so he's made a late dive here. He's able to pull it up, but not quite enough. And on the switchback, even though there was a little bit of nudge, but on the switchback, Lime Mitch gets the job done, and he's scampering away from Brendan Ross now. That said though, I think the battle for the lead's over. Barring a mistake, 5.8 seconds between Lime Mitch and Brenton Foley. This will be an important victory for Foley after that DNF in the first race. Got the job done early, as we've seen quite often, getting past slower cars and past cars that he needed to early on. The quicker cars at the start as well. So got past Ross, got past Mitch, and was able to build a gap once he got into the lead. So sort of a trademark of Foley's TCC career is that line Mitch all over the place. I don't know if he's doing perhaps a bit of computer lag or something, or a cat jumping up on the keyboard. I don't know. He's all over the place there, but he's got it back going again. But he's pulling away from Brendan Ross, who's consolidated. But behind them, Gary Neville now under threat. So he's now got Dwayne Davies, and Whitmore's not far away either. So perhaps Gary Neville made a mistake, or just Davies now, since he's been released, is able just to close that gap up quickly. And now that Whitmore's right behind Davies, he's able to see what lines and where Davies breaks. He's found a bit of pace towards the end here. But I think this is going to be the battle to watch towards the end of the race here. Behind them, Cracker and Coulson still battle it out as Neville very wide at Hislops, and now that's going to give Davies a decent run. He's going to try and switch him back at Knickerbrook and set himself up at Druids, but I don't think he's going to... No, he's going to try it. And we have had Brownie DNF as well during this time. But yeah, Davies backs out of it, and it sort of compromises him a little bit, because now Wayne Whitmore is close enough to make a dive up the inside. Actually, looking at that camera view, perhaps not. He's going to stick on the inside and see Gary Neville a little bit wide. It's going to compromise Gary Neville's exit and allow Dwayne Davies to close back up and have a look. It's not going to be close enough at turn 1, but he'll be thinking turn 2 at Cascades for sure. Once again, a little bit of luck up and a little bit wide there for Gary Neville. Neville has to go defensive. Davies is going to have to go around the outside all over the curve there. And Neville a bit wide. They're still side by side. Perhaps Whitmore going to be in a good opportunity here, but both of them showing respect. No contact between the two, and Neville holds on for now. And now Davies has to defend from Whitmore as Whitmore tries to thread the needle, but he's punted Gary Neville off. So Neville will be pretty disgusted with that. That was a very ambitious manoeuvre from Whitmore, trying to go around the outside of Davies and then cut in front of Davies and get up the inside of Gary Neville, who's now probably got further damage, and he's got Cracker and Coulson who are battling between them. Gap at the front has come down from 5.8 to 5 seconds, so only a couple tenths per lap. Ross has dropped off considerably, but he's got a big gap behind him. He doesn't really have to worry. Davies now sort of edged away a little bit from Whitmore now that he doesn't have to deal with Gary Neville. But Gary Neville now, he's got 2 laps, as Brenton Foley has crossed the start-finish line with 20 or so seconds remaining. And I'm hearing some rumblings from the SCR team boss that he is not particularly happy with that bit of driving from Wayne Whitmore, which is understandable. It's a bit ambitious. Anyway, Davies very, very wide there, and Whitmore is going to just take that position around the outside. But Davies will have a couple more opportunities immediately. When Whitmore goes defensive and outbrakes himself, Davies will have the better exit as Davies just guns, or not Davies, Coulson does, so not Coulson, Whitmore guns it on the exit and runs very, very wide. And but Davies though retakes that position. Behind him though, that said, Whitmore going to try and go around the outside. Davies closes the door behind him. Gary Neville having to go defensive. Cracker right behind. Cracker much better line through the chicane. Oh, and Cracker almost did a Brenton Foley and Dwayne Davies, and that's going to give now Mike Coulson a good run. But coming up the Clay Hill, he's got nowhere to go as it's a very narrow circuit, and Cracker just parks it in the middle of the road. But that's given Gary Neville a bit of reprieve as Brenton Foley starts his last lap. It's Wayne Whitmore having a look up the inside. Dwayne Davies almost careered into the back of him. That was ambitious. attempt, and that's would have given him a flat spot, and that's dropped him behind Dwayne Davies. So perhaps it would have been smarter just to sort of stay with him and try and set something up for the final lap, as opposed to coming from 200 metres back. At the front though, Brenton Foley leads by 4.2 seconds now over Lime Mitch, who about 8/10 or so again on the last lap, as Turmo sets the fastest lap of the race. He's down one lap. Obviously we did see him in the pits earlier, where he had that spin, unfortunately, at Druids. Lime Mitch 6.8 over Brendan Ross, and Brendan Ross 7.6 over Dwayne Davies. He's just edged away from Wayne Whitmore. Behind them though, Gary Neville and Cracker battle it out. Wayne Whitmore's dropped off just a little bit from these two. Gary Neville very defensive out of the hairpin. He hasn't had a great run. Perhaps that damage is hindering him a bit. Cracker going to try and go around the outside. It doesn't quite get it done. But Neville had to get on the power early to prevent that, and that's compromised him. But no, Cracker has done what Dwayne Davies and Brenton Foley have done. His engine's off, so that's Cracker out. A big shame for the Cracker Racing team. Both their cars out of this one. We haven't seen it, unfortunately, but Brenton Foley crosses the line. He takes race 2. Lime Mitch, 3 seconds adrift in P2, but Foley set that win up beautifully from once again getting past the faster cars in the first lap, as well as clearing some of the slower cars and setting himself up brilliantly for later in the race, and then was able to build the lead as his main rivals for the win were still struggling to get past the cars that Foley had already gotten past. Dwayne Davies takes P4, followed by Wayne Whitmore in P5. Gary Neville did hold on to P6 in the end, but he'll be quite frustrated after being wiped out there at the hairpin by Wayne Whitmore, who was trying to thread the needle in an extremely ambitious overtaking attempt. Gary Neville did have a pretty good run, it has to be said. Led the opening stages of the race before, obviously, Brenton Foley, Lime Mitch and co, a lot of the fast drivers caught up. But was holding on to P4 and would have made it interesting if it weren't for that, unfortunately, him getting punted off. Mike Coulston in P7, 31.6 as you can see on the screen. Pretty decent personal best, but consistency wasn't quite there. Still, decent result for him. And Glenn Miles had to cross the line in P8, so more solid points for Playboy Racing. And Cracker DNF there. It does say P9, but he won't get points for the DNF, and that will move Turmo one lap down. Who was one lap down. That will move Turmo up into P9 with obviously Cracker, Brownie, Bolger, and Slick all not finishing. So, two very, has to be said, intriguing races. With Lime Mitch and Foley having a very, very tight tussle in the opening race. And then that second one with, thankfully, the first couple of laps were fairly clean. We didn't see any big accidents like we did in a couple of the other rounds that we've had this season. But really, that second race was set up quite beautifully by, once again, that opening lap from Brenton Foley, able to obviously get past the quicker cars that he needed to on that first lap, which in green conditions would have been difficult, but at a race start on that first lap, it is a bit of chaos, and always seems to find a way past and set it up, and then got the job done quickly and efficiently against the slower guys, and was able to build a lead, and then sort of, I wouldn't say cruise, but certainly take it a bit easier than what would have normally happened had he had a quicker guy right behind him. So we've been joined in the podium by Brenton Foley. We'll cut to you first off. Obviously, the first race, you did have some pretty solid pace. Didn't quite have the pace to really reel in Lime Mitch at the end there. It seemed like your tyres did fall away a little bit, and then you made the same mistake that Dwayne Davies did and just turned in a little bit too early at Knickerbrook and wrote your car off.
Yeah, Lime Mitch was really, really quick tonight. I had the pace kind of in the middle sector on him, and I'd always make a little bit of gain there, and he'd get away in the first sector a little bit. But I would always find I could made a decent amount of ground at the hairpin, and then I pushed the limits a little bit too far there, ruined my tyres locking up, and that gave him a bit of a gap. And I did actually kind of give up on first and try and settle in and accept I was going to get second. But yeah, I turned in and got a lot more grip than I thought I was going to get, and yeah, just a very silly mistake and a costly one points wise.
It has moved you behind Brendan Ross in the championship. Even with, I do believe the obviously the win in the second race there. That said though, was it quite encouraging? It would have been quite a good round had you not DNF. So it is quite costly in that not only would you have put a lot of points on, or not only did you lose points to Brendan Ross, but you would have put on quite a decent amount of points on Brendan Ross in that first race. So positives in pace wise, but obviously frustration in that you cost yourself a big chunk of points there.
Yeah, I really needed just to kind of relax a little bit and take it easy because I definitely had a gap there. And as you said, I gave away a fair bit of points there to my teammate. But even though he had a bit of a not the greatest qualifying session, he did really well in both races. So he does deserve the championship lead.
Certainly does. And then obviously that second race there seems to be, did say it in the broadcast numerous times, that your trademark would seem to be these reverse grid races where when you do start at the back, you're able to just get through a lot of cars on the first lap. You put a gap early on your at least rivals for that race weekend that do happen to have the pace. It seems to be a different person just about every weekend. Well, aside from this season, but certainly going by previous seasons. Um, and then you hit the lead by just before midpoint, and then you're able to stretch a lead as those faster guys still have to get their way past some of the slower guys that you managed to get past on the first lap or early on.
Yeah, I keep saying to the team before the race that I should take it easy and not cause any incidents. But every time I start that race too, and I'm down there a little bit, I seem to always find a little hole just to put my car in, and it works, and I normally get through pretty cleanly. And yeah, I saw that Lion Mitch was behind a couple of people, so I really had to make the most of it. But credit goes to the team, FCR Motorsport. Everyone pitched in with the setup tonight, and it was fantastic.
Look, we're just amateurs here. There's no need for this ultra professional and just flat out just boring answers. So if you just want to just absolutely just flame your teammates and say that you made a great setup, it's perfectly fine. You're not hurting anybody, especially because Scruff runs the team. So it's
Definitely a bit of driver in it too. Like I'm a big fan of that track, but wouldn't be able to do it with the car setup.
certainly well. Not in the championship lead, but certainly very, very quick this evening. Have you Have you driven the Floripa the next round at Floripa at all? Have you driven that track in any car, or is that just going to be a complete unknown for you?
Never even heard of the track, so that'll be an interesting one.
Well, all I have to say is good luck.
I look forward to it then.
All right, well,
Thank you.
that's Brenton Foley, race 2 winner. All right, we'll cut to. Well, I'm just trying to decide who should I cut to. I think we'll cut to. We'll go to Dwayne Davies actually. Dwayne, you were quite quick in practice. Obviously, didn't quite get pole position, but that first race, the first couple laps were okay, but then you sort of fell away behind Brenton Foley, and then you wrote the car off. What happened there?
Yeah, some of those, I was driving straight and the tyres just jumped in front of me. I had no clue where to go, so I'm pretty sure Scruff pushed them out. So FCR again.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, the car was good, but my tyres, I sort of thought in qualifying and practice that they were going to go away real quick, and they did. And then once Foley got past, but then I was having a fight with Cracker, and then I thought I'll just concentrate now, and then I hit the first thing I've seen. So yeah, it didn't go well.
is it with the tyre wear issue? Is that would that be perhaps overdriving, or is that a setup issue, or perhaps a bit of both?
I think it was a little bit, maybe too much camber and me sort of accelerating a little bit early because I had the grip. Whereas if I had just had it more balanced, it would sort of like the second race was a lot better. It was a little bit more balanced, so it was working a lot better in the second race.
Well, speaking of that second race, obviously you didn't have the greatest opening few laps, but you're able to stick with Wayne Whitmore for quite a while there, and then towards the end of the race, you sort of brought yourself into podium, well maybe not quite podium contention, but certainly of a decent top 4, top 5 result there.
Yeah, I sort of had the pace at the start, and I sort of got stuck behind a few fighting cars, and it was just I didn't have the speed in the certain places where I was quicker, so I just couldn't get past them for a while. And then once I got past, there was a fair bit of probably between the 15 to 7 minute mark sort of thing. I had to chase them down, and then it was too late by then. The guys were gone.
Still, obviously not the greatest first race, but that second race, you're able to hold on towards the end there and pick up some solid points there.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
Alright, so I think we'll cut to Brendan Ross for our final interview. Obviously, Rossi, you weren't able to make qualifying because I believe your game crashed or you were booted as the server ticked over to qualifying, but despite that, you probably didn't quite have the pace, at least in that first race, that you would have liked. You didn't seem to make your way through the field as quickly as what you would have hoped, and lap time wise, it looked in that first race that you were a bit slower than Gary Neville.
Yeah, a weird computer bug shut the whole computer down, so I was worried it was actually a power outage, but luckily I made it for that. So yeah, it just didn't have the pace. I knew coming into the round it was going to be sort of a bogey round for me. So to come out 5th in that first race was probably a big bonus for the championship wise.
Yep, and then obviously the second race there, starting a bit higher up, and in the warm-up it looked like you'd found quite a bit of pace, and it proved to be. Obviously you're in the 31s. I don't believe you cracked a 1 minute 30 off the top of my head in race 2, but you're certainly much more competitive compared to the front runners in Lime Mitch and your teammate Bretton Foley. Was there any setup changes, or was it just you getting more acclimatized to the track?
No. There was a setup that was handed out between the team that definitely made the car just suit everyone's driving style, to be honest. So I think 3/4 would have been using, if not all of us. So that definitely helped my pace. But just really sort of towards the end of that race, it did sort of throw back to the old setup where the tyres went. So I just got to work on that end.
So why didn't you use that? I'm just asking, why didn't you use that setup in the first race where you struggled a little bit?
We didn't know of that setup until after the first race.
And which setup would this be?
A certain POM.
Certain POM. Gary Neville or Mike Coulston?
Oh, Gary Neville.
Gary Neville.
Got to keep it in the team.
Well, Gary Neville is in here, but Gary, I'll just ask one question. Why would you throw yourself under the bus like that when you had Rossi done for pace, mate?
Well, you got to help the team. I'm the slowest of the guys, so help them out, get them to win. That's what it's all about.
Good, you're a good chance for a podium there for quite a while, but
Yeah.
With that, if you hadn't chucked him a setup, you would have been comfortably faster than him, I'd say.
Yes, but ultimately, Foley and Rossi are a lot faster than me, so they would probably have caught me anyway, whether they use their own setup or mine.
Fair enough. Still, you had a interesting evening. First race wasn't quite, didn't go quite to plan. And that second race, you did quite well. It has to be said. You led the early portion of the race, and you're in third and fourth for quite a good portion of that second
Quite
race. It's just a bit of a shame, obviously, what happened at the end there. But you must be quite pleased with how that second race went there, aside from the last couple of laps.
Yeah. Up until then, it was going really well. As you said, I was sort of third, fourth for most of the way, and then, well, got hit up the back, and that's the end of that, really.
Yep, unfortunate, but hopefully we see you up there again in the following races. So hopefully you can carry this that bit of form into the rest of the season.
We'll see how we go.
All right, well that just about does it for this evening. I'll just have a look and see what is coming up at Automobilista Australia. I do believe on Wednesday night we have the TCAC Series. I believe that's at Laguna Seca, if that is anything to go by. That is on Wednesday night. It's just trying to double check. I just wish there was an easy thing for me to see this. Yes, Laguna Seca on June 5. So that is on Wednesday. I do believe the supercars are a few weeks away. I can't remember which circuit, but they're a while away. GT3s is a couple weeks away. We do have an Indy 500 coming up at some point. So Scruff, if you do have a few words and a bit of info for the people out there that may be interested, it might be an idea to say it now.
I got nothing yet. It's almost ready though.
It's almost ready. So
Almost ready.
do you have a date at when this event may take place?
We are targeting the Sunday after the last GT3 round.
Yeah. So that'll be. I'm just trying to.
I had fun trying to figure that out too.
That is June 30, I believe.
We're just trying to sort out. We've got a few different track options, and just trying to make sure we get the best one for the race. The cars are all sorted, so it'll be news on that in the near future.
Yep. So June 30, that is the week after GT3s, with the final round of the the two final rounds being moved due to some poor attendance from what was going to happen. I think it was last week or the week before. So it was moved. So the next round of the GT3 World Challenge is this Sunday coming up. So that is the 9th of June. That is from the Kota circuit. That'll be an interesting racetrack for a few of the drivers. And then on June 23, the GT World Challenge finishes up at the 2 hours of Road America. So hopefully that's just as entertaining race as what the GT3 race was there in Season 1. So we hope you've enjoyed this evening's broadcast, and we hope to see you around Automobilista Australia. So, take care and have a good one.